Good morning, traders. This is Parawoki with StartupTrading.com. It is 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, May 3rd, 2021. So, again, looking at our epic climb that really started, post-election. So, in the last week or so, right, we've been building this little shelf up here, basically between 4167 to 4180, and then keeping above that. So just as far as you know, you've got trap shorts below still compared to where you're going to have trap longs above. That's still going to be pretty much last week's low at that 41.67, but you're going to start having a little bit of trouble more than likely once you cross below 41.80, if that indeed happens, right? So this is the first day of the month for trading. We did have the same pattern basically we had last month where uh, they held uh, the market flat, right, basically, and slightly down potentially, right, from the previous day on the last day of the month, right? So now the first day of the month goes what looked like, basically trapped longs up here last week, in this box. You get all these people, right? And then you start getting price action below. That's what everyone thinks. There's going to be a lot of longs trapped up here. They're going to start selling. They're going to be crying. All the shorts will be geniuses. All the longs will be idiots. And what happens? We open, we get a little bit of a Sunday night gap up. And potentially the reverse could happen, right? We could end up trapping the shorts that thought they were going to, get in near this high, and then they get stopped out. So money flow does come into the market normally at the first week of the month. We do have Powell today at 2:20, so think of today as before and after 2 o'clock. And really, just pay attention to, I would say, on the top side, the market really needs to stay above 41.88, basically. Uh, or it's going to risk going from 88 down to 67, right? 20 points, because most of the action from last week is really contained within those 20 points. We did have the Thursday action that was, had some action slightly above, but ignoring Thursday, right, taking out the one day there, the majority of the price action was in those 20 points between 67 and 87 last week. So looking at all of the indexes, right? I have little support resistance zones, these orange boxes that I'm watching, right? The Russell is right back up and dead. That's going to be between 2275 and 2288, 89, right around there. So it's going to make a decision whether it horseshoes down from here or it kind of pops above there, and then 88 should be support from there. One thing that can happen, right, we get one more test of 75s, right, and then go. But right now we're just stuck in that zone between 75 and 88, so no big deal there. The NASDAQ, its zone is quite a bit higher. It's right around 14,000 plus or minus 12 is what it is. So it's a 24-point resistance zone up there. It is going down under there. Friday's lows, right, we're right at this 13,825. So just basic support resistance. Nothing magical happened. And then for the NASDAQ, and just caught here, basically has a little bit of overhead supply left. So above that 13,945, and then it goes back up to that 14,000 plus or minus 12. So as we look at the Dow, that zone for it is basically 34,020 plus or minus 21, 22, right in there. So as we go look at that, so basically from 34,000 to 34,043 is that zone I'm looking at. So if you look at where we're at, right, the Russell is at the decision point, the ES is above, and the NASDAQ and the Dow are, below those areas. So we'll see if that liquidity pushes them up today a little bit to start the week or not. But you can see after all this consolidation, if they do pop above these resistance zones, right, should get our that first week of the month liquidity push up as normal. So one thing that I'll be watching though is if on the other side, right? Because remember, if what should happen doesn't happen, the opposite will happen with the same amount of magnitude. So as we look at that, right, we'll be watching to see if these indexes start all churning below, right? So basically that 4167 is the ES's lows from last week. That is the bottom of this 4165 level, and then that would start the gates going to the downside. So watch these and we'll see, where it goes. So that the ES has the farthest to drop, right, to get below, so it turns into overhead supply. The Dow is right there right now. So as we look at basically Bitcoin, so after breaking the shorts from that all-time high down to this 540 low, right? It broke this 61.8, come back up, and it just pulled perfectly into a halfway back long after earnings, right? After earnings, it continued to sell off. It hit that halfway back long from the lows of that swing and just has reacted up. So we'll see if it can complete up here around this 845 area, 844 in the next, 2-3 weeks. See if it ends up getting up there. But so far, just the bid you would expect coming out of there after the reversal. So we'll see if it ends up cracking down later. So I'm not going to put too much weight into that one yet. So looking at the floor trader pivot levels, 41.30 half to 42.18 half is really where we're at for today's realm of possibility. But you can see there's a big green blob here. That big green blob is going to be these are single prints that go back to April 23rd. Basically from 41.50 to 41.60 is where they're at. So I don't think that we're getting down there again unless we end up breaking those lows. That's something I don't think would happen at all, or does not even have a remote chance of happening until at least Powell gets on the mic at 220, right? We could test down to this level, right? But we're not crashing through these level until after Powell opens his mouth at 220. And then more than likely, if we're just churning around up in the top of this zone, we'll just have to read the tape of see what goes on. To be honest with you, I'll probably look at this session as before and after 220. And unless I see something just extraordinary setting up between 220 and 415, I probably won't be in any trades or take any trades from 220 on today. So looking at, it'll be easier since it's at the end of the day to let that action set up for tomorrow's session, right? Let that 220 to 415 set up the action that's going to be used for tomorrow. So looking at the Russell, what we have here is a little bit of overhead supply still at 2300 to 2304 basically, and then below we had some single prints that were above. Right when the futures opened Sunday night, right, we come back down, we tested the bottom of this box and we rejected those lower prices and then traded up. And if you look, we basically got back up to Friday's bell high. So as we look at that area down below is going to be between 66 half basically and 68 half. Nothing really, no other anomalies really to keep note of for now, and then we'll just see. But if you look at where we're at, obviously between value area high and Friday's high, right at value. But if you look at the session for the NASDAQ, right, it's been completely in value. It really hasn't made a decision on what it wants to do. It's just trading value from Friday's session, where the rest of them are all trading above value right now. So the NASDAQ right now is the laggard, and we'll see how that goes. One thing to note, and I haven't been paying attention, but Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway had their little rah-rah fest on Saturday. Usually he's on CNBC the following Monday. After that, he may have already been on there blabbering or whatever. But the headlines were that basically he thought the market was a little bit overvalued, but the only thing that was really worth buying was his own stock. So we'll see where that goes. He regretted getting out of some of his Apple position earlier, but really there was nothing notable from his conversations with him and Munger on Saturday, in my opinion. So just to be aware, but that normally would happen is Buffett is one of the biggest bulls in America. And normally when he's on CNBC, everyone gets overexcited and just wants to buy, 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 buy. So we'll see. The interesting thing was he did not think that anything was worth buying right now except for his own stock. So with that said, I'll be watching the overnight value areas. What I'll be watching for, right, and with Powell at 2, what we'll probably end up getting, right, is more churn through the overnight range, right? I'll be shocked if we get a pop up that holds above these overnight highs and keeps going. Anything is a possibility, but that would be the least likely scenario for today's action, in my opinion. And then we'll see what it gets. If we do gap up, it would be just one of those range things. But what I'll be watching is overnight value areas where we traded to see if we just get stuck basically trading the overnight range or if we ended up popping above. So if we pop above, right, we have a strong distinction of that liquidity for the first of the month coming into play, right? Because you're already above all these value areas. If you start popping up over the overnight value areas as well, you're going to get the condition that at least would lead into a strong continuation and a correlation of one between these markets for the morning session. You guys have a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow.